Good morning, everyone. I am Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's post-cabinet press briefing. Welcome to members of the media who have joined us as per usual. To those of you who are viewing via radio, viewing or listening, that should be, via radio, television or social media, thank you as well for tuning in to get some updates about the work of government. This week, I have with me the Minister for Agriculture and Lands, the Honorable Yolande Bain Hosford, and she's accompanied by Chief Agricultural Officer, Mr. Daniel Lewis. We will get right into the program this morning. Minister has several updates as it pertains to the Farm Labor Support Program and a number of other areas within her ministry. So, Minister Bain Hosford, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Press Secretary, members of the press, and good morning to the listeners out there. We are delighted to be here this morning to inform you on some of the programs and projects that are happening at this moment or will be taking place over the next few weeks at the Ministry of Agriculture. We will speak this morning on the Farm Labor Program, which is due to start next week, the Fertilizer Program. We would also give you an update on the Agricom project that have started a few months ago, the Climate Smart Rural Enterprise Program, CIEP. We will also update you on what is happening for World Food Day and also the Chinese mission, the handing over ceremony, and the Beekeepers Association. We would also give you some highlights on the new hotel that is taking place, that will be developed in St. David's. So we have a packed program here this morning. So I would start off quickly by starting off with the Farm Labor Program. And this program, you know, we've been having this program over 10 years now at the Ministry of Agriculture, but we have modified the program a bit. And we are starting the program on Monday, the 7th of October, and this year we are focusing on nutmeg, cocoa, soursop, coconuts, and spices. These are the 5 areas that we'll be focusing this year. And some of the main highlights would be the establishment of 100 acres of soursop. You know, soursop is our gold. And we have to ensure that soursop, we keep planting and refurbishing those fields. The establishment of 25 acres of cocoa, the establishment of 25 acres of nutmegs, 50 acres of spices in St. David's, and we chose St. David's because the soil in St. David's is the right soil for planting spices, and a lot of our spices have went down after Hurricane Ivan and Emily in that area. We'll be establishing 10 acres of coconuts, and we are rehabilitating the drum plots at the Ashenden and Lassages stations. So that is what the farm labor would include this year. We would start on Monday, and we have over 50 gangs would be participating in the program, and that would be for a period of 2 months. On this program, each worker will be entitled to a maximum of 2 fortnights. 130 farms will benefit from this program. So I move to the fertilizer program. Under the Moroccan funded soil fertility map project, and you may have heard me spoke about that over and over, this project was well done by the support from the Moroccan. The Kingdom of Morocco has been providing fertilizer to Grenada, and only last week we got a shipment of 3,600 bags. And these are 110-pound bags. And they landed at the port last week, and they have been transported to the MNIB. The MNIB is responsible for selling these bags of fertilizers on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture. The price is $50 per bag, which is less than 40% of the market price. So farmers, you would be delighted to know that they are getting the fertilizer at a reasonable price. What would happen, we are trying now to see if we can get all the districts organized so that the fertilizer could be sold in parts of the district so that the farmers wouldn't have to come all the way to St. George's just to get a bag of fertilizer or 2 bags of fertilizer. So we're trying to zone it so that they can have it in their respective, more or less nearby in their respective areas. A batch of fertilizer too would be sent to Carriacou so that the farmers on the sister isle could benefit from the same. So we really appreciate the help that was given to us from the Moroccan government. We want to thank them for the support they have been given to us with the fertilizer and also the soil mapping project. Now, Agricom project. This project, has been launched 2 years ago. Yes, in July 2017. And we have been working along to get this project right. There have been a lot of teething problems because it's not only Grenada, it's also St. Vincent. And St. Vincent, we have to work, simultaneously, whatever we are doing. St. Vincent is way back and they were trying to keep up with Grenada. So we are back on foot now. We have things in place. And the project is a $10.8 million project. Farmers, agro-processors, fisher folk, etc., who are involved in the agri-food chain through grant funding, training, development of business plans, etc. That is what is going to happen with that project. And this project is geared to enhance the competitiveness of the beneficiaries, agriculture enterprises, more market penetration, etc. So yesterday we had put a close to the proposals. All proposals, the deadline was yesterday. If there's anything like within this week, we may be able to accommodate it, but after that, all this is closed. The era for bringing in proposals is closed. We received so far 22 business idea proposals, and these proposals will go through the evaluation process by the end of October. The evaluation process will be conducted by a competent team of persons, and these proposals are the proposals that would be chosen are the most sustainable from an economic, financial, environmental, and social perspective. The implementation of these business plans would commence in the first quarter of 2020. Government will provide grant financing of US $2.2 million towards the execution of 20 business plans. Additionally, another US $200,000 will be spent increasing the capacity of the extension personnel through training and provision of equipment. So that will be the government of Grenada piece that will be adding to the project. So that's it for Agricom. We move now to the Climate Smart and Rural Development Enterprise Project, CIEP. This is another important project that have started, and the goal of this project is to contribute to the reduction of poverty and vulnerability of men and women in rural communities in Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. The CIEP target is to improve assets of the target population by 10%. A lot of focus and emphasis will be placed on youths between the age 16 to 35, and the adoption of climate-smart approaches, as well as training and rehabilitation of road infrastructure. That would be of high priority. So during the last 6 months, there has been a main focus on mobilization of staff. They were getting themselves organized. They have done that now, and they are ready to kick up. So all the preparatory work has been done, and they are ready to kick off the program now. A number of extension staff attached to the project have been receiving training and orientation, and they have been interfacing with farmers to identify potential beneficiaries. 95 such beneficiaries have been identified, and we'll work with them soon. They would group them and work with them shortly. The improvement to the farm road infrastructure is a major goal of CIEP as well. We have been visiting farms along with CIEP. In that regard, 73 farm roads have been assessed for potential rehabilitation, and 35 have been selected and submitted to Cabinet for approval. that was passed last cabinet before. 10 of these roads will be rehabilitated in 2020. Some of these roads don't really need concrete, so they will be just binding because they have proper structure and so most of them would be binding and put in proper drainage so that the water would not wash away the road. $10 million have been allocated for these farm roads rehabilitation, and government has committed to provide additional funding. SIPE won't be only working on these projects, they will be looking at irrigation as well. A lot of work on irrigation to support the farmers, because that is one of the problems that the farmers are having. They're not getting enough irrigation to their lands. And so that would be a project. This $2 million is earmarked for irrigation. Okay, a number of training programs have started. Two important training programs have already been implemented in the areas of agro-processing and crop production, involving a total of 40 participants. The National Training Agency and TAMCC are working with SIPE in all matters related to training. So we are not just training people ordinarily. They're training them, we would have a certificate in their hands. They will get a better understanding of what they're doing, and they'll be able to do what they're doing the best. SIPE is also working with GIDC in regards to training, and a facility in Simoon is now being rehabilitated and equipped, which will be used for training of the beneficiaries. It is expected that 2020 there will be a significant rollout and implementation of activities under the SIPE project. Okay, we now move to the observance of World Food Day. And we will be celebrating World Food Day under the theme, Our Action, Our Future, Healthy Diets for a Zero Hunger World. And like in previous years, you know, we have used the Seat and Dream Street in Grenville. It was always a successful World Food Day there. And we are hoping to have it, the whole street locked off this time, from the top to the bottom, because we have some new ideas and new activities. So this year's focus will be on the Sustainable Development Goal number 2, which is on zero hunger. Okay? And just to give you some highlights on zero hunger, it has been reported that in a world of zero hunger, 3.1 million lives could be saved, and well-nourished mothers will have healthier babies with strong immune systems. And by ending undernutrition, could increase a developing country gross domestic product by 16.5%. Okay, so this year's Food Day, we promised it to be very educational. While we have the displays, but the displays would speak to the fact of healthy diets and how to, you know, to get families involved in eating the kinds of foods that will help them to grow and develop. So there will be a lot of educational exhibits, and many dishes would be displayed. Okay. So that will be on the 16th of October at St. James Street in Grenville. Well, you may have seen in the media last week, we have received some agricultural inputs from the Chinese mission. Ambassador had handed over those inputs to the Ministry of Agriculture, and we hope to utilize them well. A lot of our shade houses and so are down at Ashenden and other areas, and we try to use some of them to resuscitate those areas, and also to help some farmers who are in need of refurbishing their shade houses, etc. Now, this is good news. The beekeepers are regrouping to develop the apiculture subsector in Grenada. And what has happened so far, we have an association being formed now to take up the mantle to push this whole development process forward. We have been receiving support, a lot of support from Argentina before, with the apiculture program, and we hope to continue. But most of the times when funding or support is being given to the government. So they want to make sure that there is an organized body. And so we have spoken to a lot of the beekeepers, and so they have formed themselves into an organized body now. We hope that an office can be open. We have an office space in Grenville. By the 15th of October, we hope to open up that office in Grenville so that all the beekeepers in Grenada can register. They can go there and register. We can have a list of all the beekeepers, their status, their productivity, what is happening to them, productivity-wise, and we can have a feel as to what they're doing, where their farms are located, and what are some of the problems that they're encountering. That would be the role of the association and the opening of the office. Just a little bit on now I move to the new hotel in St. David's. And this new hotel, just to inform the public, that this new hotel will be starting its construction very soon. Feasibility study was done, and EIA was done for range development. That's the developers of the Six Senses. That's a new hotel that is about to be constructed in Lassages, St. David's. And that study was done by Dr. Valma Jessamy. This is something that the government, this is a requirement of the government that you must have whenever there is a construction taking place. EIA must be done. And that was done by Dr. Jessamy. So they are ready to move into the next phase, which is to the construction phase. So I think I've exhausted my time. I didn't even enough time for questions and so. But these are some of the things that are happening at the Ministry of Agriculture. And, there are much more, but we have to zero in on as much as we can take this morning.
Thank you very much, Minister, for that comprehensive opening statement. So lots of interesting and positive developments in the agriculture sector. And like Minister said, there's so much more going on, but these are the areas that we have chosen to highlight this morning. So the floor is now open for questions. Members of the media, as per usual, please identify yourself and your media house before asking your question. The Chief Agricultural Officer is also here, and he will serve as a resource person for any questions that you may have.
Morning. Good morning.
Sorry about that. Good morning. As far as the Minister has been speaking, the name is Linda Straker.
Yeah.
And I am a freelance journalist. I operate independently. As far as the Minister was speaking, I wrote quite a number of questions. I do hope I have the opportunity to ask. But I'm going to start with World Food Day activities and the focus on SDG number 2 on zero hunger. I know we would have had a zero hunger initiative program based within the Ministry of Agriculture. Can you give us an update as to what that program has achieved and what is being done and potentially the cost that it has to run that program?
Well, under the Zero Hunger program, the Ministry of Agriculture has been receiving enormous support from the FAO, basically, to implement that program. And the focus really over the last couple of years has been on schools. So we had about 4 schools, the Bonnet Government, St. Patrick Anglican, St. Patrick Catholic, and also the school in Bylands. And what essentially had been happening is support had been provided through training, look at improving the farm, the garden, the school garden, because if you go to St. Patrick Anglican, for example, you'd see they have an enormously good, in fact, they have a very, very good infrastructure because they raise small ruminants and also chicken. In fact, I had the fortune one day to go to that school and to see, and what happened, the principal, very proactive, you have the school children come in and participate fully feeding and so forth. So what essentially you're doing in that program, inculcating the young people, the young children at a very early age in how to interface with agriculture activities, and they get into like it. And one of the things that the Zero Hunger has done also is to equip the school feeding program because we believe if your children are, if they are exposed, especially with the use of local produce, if they develop the appetite and thing for local produce, that all goes well when they grow up and have more appreciation for our local food. So a lot has been provided in equipping. They had big blenders, because one of the things you'd want to do is to ensure that you use all your local fruits and blend it into nice drinks and so forth, so the children could be eating healthy. They have had, I looked at some of the stoves, which have been what we call cooker. Some people refer to stove as cooker, which have been provided to them so they could have good infrastructure to do all the cooking and so forth, and other utensils and things that have been provided with farm garden implements, forks and spades and everything else. And in fact, in some of the schools, they had been, because Pride Elasticity continued to be an enormous challenge for all of us. So in that regard, even the schools became some victims of the Pride Elasticity. So in some of the schools, we had support was provided in terms of fencing and so forth. And so from the ministry's perspective, we believe that program has been hugely successful. And one of the things that the program is moving into now is to expand the number of beneficiary schools to include some other schools and so forth. So from the ministry standpoint, we are enormously grateful to the FAO for providing support, and we view the Zero Hunger as a very, very important initiative in the ministry.
Is it linked to the school's 4-H program? And how much money have we spent on that program so far?
Well, I cannot quantify really, but a substantial amount has been spent. I can't quantify and tell you XYZ. A lot of this money came from, and some of the ministry has brought it in some respect. And if you put a value in terms of the human resource that had been, used to support the program, and you talk about there's something else you had asked. The 4-H, yes.
4-H, because I know quite a bit of schools have 4-H.
Definitely. Yes, some of them are linked to the 4-H because you have some schools, the 4-H are much more dynamic than others. For example, some of the same schools we spoke about, the Bonnet Government, the St. Patrick's Anglican, and so they have very, very dynamic 4-H clubs. So one of the things we had to do, how do you work together with those 4-H clubs and so forth, because we believe the 4-H represents a movement that could provide good sustainability to the agricultural sector. A lot of the persons we see in the 4-H later, sometimes they graduate as 4-H leaders and as persons working in the agricultural sector. Okay.
Linda, just let's see if there's anyone else who needs to ask a question. Any other members of the media have questions? Okay. It's all yours.
The Minister, you mentioned about the starting of Sixth Sense construction and an EIA was done. Is that EIA available for public knowledge, or is it something just for the company's private use?
It was just done. I have no idea, All I can tell you that it was done recently. That's the information I have.
Has the cabinet got a copy of it?
Not as yet. Mm-hmm.
So the cabinet do not know what are the findings nor recommendations?
Well, cabinet have not received a copy yet, but I'm sure that will reach cabinet very soon. But the persons who are responsible for looking into the whole, the copy or whatever, to see that it's what they expect, I'm sure they would be dealing with that at the moment because it has received.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for the clarity. My other question has to do with the Beekeepers Association and the announcement that is being regrouped.
Mm-hmm.
And there is some funding from Argentina. Can you just share a little bit more on that type of funding? And I think it was last year, or time flies so much, about 2 years ago, there was an issue where someone from, I think it was livestock, announced advising persons in Grenada not to import bees out of Trinidad because of the having a special type of bee that is not. Can you say whether or not any persons were found importing such bees and into the country? Because there was a public issue, and tell us more about that project and funding from Argentina.
And maybe Daniel would build on it. What I said, we have had a lot of support from Argentina. What I said also is that when funding agencies want to support, they want to know that there is an established body in place. As regarding this funding from Argentina for this new fiscal year, I have no information on that yet. But I spoke about the funding that took place during the course of this year and last year.
Could I expand a little? What happened under the South-South Cooperation? Argentina has pledged to provide support. I mean, they entered into some bilateral with the government of Grenada, and they provided support to other jurisdictions in the OECS. Now, they had been providing over the last couple of years training in beekeeping, everything related to the apiculture subsector. A couple extension officers that was working directly with beekeepers went to Trinidad. Also, some farmers and the team from Argentina came to Grenada, and they conducted some training and so forth. So that would have ended that cycle of support. Now, normally, as you know, any bilateral, sometime every so often you have to renew, and maybe Grenada would indicate to them what are the area of priorities and so forth. And talking a little more about this bilateral, Argentina has been providing support also in education. And also they have a project that is at the regional level in terms of in plant protection. In fact, some time last year before, I think it was year before, a sub-regional team went to representative of the beneficiary governments to Barbados, where the team from Argentina were there, and they prioritized some key areas of support under education and under agriculture. So Grenada has benefited in a way under those bilateral, and clearly the apiculture subsector also benefited. All right.
I had asked about the
oh, yes, you spoke about the importation of the bees. So, one of the things that Grenada has were affected over the years has been the introduction of alien invasive species. I could tell you, when I first joined the ministry years ago, Grenada and St. Vincent were two of the only islands in the Caribbean who could have exported any fruits to the United States, for example, but that has been the case. Over the last couple of years, we had the incident of a lot of alien invasive species, pests, diseases, and so forth. And so Grenada has to guard against such, under good quarantine surveillance system and so forth. And I've been hearing that some things may have come from Trinidad, and because clearly Trinidad has a lot of things that we have gotten over the years that impacted our agricultural sector. So I do not have evidence that any importation was made, but clearly, any incident, whether it's a rumor or not, we have to be guarded. And so I think the ministry had up the surveillance system and so forth to ensure that we don't get, nothing from Trinidad that could have a deleterious impact on our agricultural sector, particularly apiculture. So, the ministry cannot say categorically that, yes, we were able to intercept any bees that came from Trinidad. But clearly, we have to guard against any such development because it could impact our apiculture subsector.
We all understand the importance of bees to the entire environment. Under that regrouping of the membership and development of that industry, are you in a position to say whether or not bees will be imported into the country?
One of the things that you see, sometimes one of the things involved in the agricultural sector, sometimes you need to do from time to time is to get highly productive, whether it's special planting material that come through or, bees. I know some time ago, some beekeepers were clamoring for the importation of queen bee. And I think one importation was made from somewhere in the Pacific. Because clearly, when you import in something like that, you have to do your pest risk analysis to find out whether they have some things we do not have that could negatively impact. And we got a clean bill of, in terms of the assessment and assessment was done. So there is a likelihood that in the future, some importation could be done to enhance the productivity of our queen bee and others. But all necessary pertinent assessment would have to be done prior to giving the green light to import. That's a normal thing that have to be done. Yes, procedure. You just can't import. You have to do the necessary pest risk assessment, whether plant material, bees, or whatever the case may be.
Sorry, my two final questions has to do one with the SIRE programs. Minister, can you identify the 73 rows that were assessed and those that were selected, where they're located? And then the other one has to do with the farm labor program. And you mentioned how much acres that will be used. Can you tell us how much persons will be per gang and the
did
cost
see that.
towards the ministry for that program implementation over the 2-month period?
Okay. So the SIRE project, we do not, well, it's a long list. I cannot give you the names of we're going to, right. But most of the parishes, almost all the parishes have been touched. Yeah. Some might be more than others. Yeah, you may have 2 in one parish, or 3 in one parish and 1 in another one. But most of the parishes have been
That's include
35
Carriacou?
roads. Yes, Carriacou is included in everything. Yeah. Over 50 gangs. 8 persons, 8 workers per gang. 2-month program. 130 farms. That's over $300 and something thousand would be expended on the program. Yeah. 8 workers per gang is similar to that of the bushing program. Yes. 8 workers.
Yes, Minister, finish. Could I just add one thing though regarding the SIRE Road program? No, I need to indicate that in assessing the road, there are some criteria that were put in place because you just don't agree to do the road because roads are very, very expensive and you want to ensure that there is certain economic returns. And from that, in that regard, you looked at the amount of farmers that the road would be able to access, the productivity and all these things and what have been produced and so forth. So they had set criteria and they, use that in terms of doing the necessary assessment. So you'd find in areas where there is much more potential, then clearly, some of the road would have been given the green light, really, So as in assessing the road, they had the set criteria. Yeah.
Good morning, Anisha Samuel, the Grenadian Voice newspaper. Minister, I just want an update on the status regarding the implementation of crop insurance.
Yes. As you may well be aware, crop insurance is a very, very necessary initiative to manage risk management. As you know, in recent times, due to climate change and everything else, we have seen increasingly a lot of impact on weather-related on the agricultural sector. And what happened under those circumstances, the government had to come in and provide support. Sometimes the government have their own challenges and so forth. So in that regard, there had been an initiative on the part of the Food and Agricultural Organization to look at an initiative first as a pilot project involving St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Grenada and Jamaica. And we had the team from FAO did a lot of consultations and meetings and so forth. In fact, one was done sometime maybe about 2 months ago. And where we are now in terms of that initiative is because when you're developing a crop insurance, you need to have a database. And what the consultants have been advancing in terms of idea is that we should start with the cocoa and the nutmeg subsectors because you have a big pool of farmers and you have the proper database and so forth because, data is something that the ministry the agriculture sector is somewhat weakened. But the good thing is that the association, if you go to the GCNA, the GCA, they could indicate the number of farmers they have, what they produce, and how, and in what year. So they said they would start with this first as a pilot. And so the last recommendation was made is that the ministry should establish a kind of MOU to ensure that move forward and so forth. And from there on, when that phase is implemented, they look at bringing on board, because we have a lot of vegetable farmers or other farmers involved in different sectors. What they're looking at is a sort of index insurance, where, for example, you could have insurance against a certain level of precipitation, like rainfall, and against a sort of wind speed. For example, you could say, yes, I'm insuring my crop against maybe using the wind, 40 miles per hour. So should 45, you have an event with 45 miles per hour, it automatically would trigger payment, even without going on the field to see who get damaged. Once 45 miles per hour has been, they would trigger payment. We had a similar initiative started years ago with a company from Germany called Munich Reinsurance, and they was advancing the same kind of index insurance. Because, you know, we had the experience in the Windward Islands with the Windward Island Crop Insurance Scheme that was established in 1987. And, well, which was a kind of traditional insurance. After any event like hurricane, a storm, they went out with all the assessors and so forth. This is a little more complicated because you need to bring down people after an event on the field and do all the assessment, and it takes time. But this new approach in terms of insurance indexing seems to be a little different. So to answer your question, yes, we're moving forward because government have a vested interest in ensuring that we could have insurance for stakeholders involved in the sector. Because after an event, the government have to scratch ahead. Because only last year, Minister, we had to pay out a number, and just every year we have to. Fortunately, we expected that this storm Karen would have brought a lot of damage, but after we conducted our assessment, that was not done, and we are happy about that. Not only from a government standpoint, but from the farmer's perspective, not losing, anything serious, just one or two farmers here and there.
Just to inform, the farmers are getting themselves organized. They realize that they have to get into serious business. They have to get this whole crop insurance. So the dialogue, the information that we've been circulating, the different meetings we have had and discussed with them, most of them are interested in moving in that direction.
So to be clear, at the moment, dialogue is taking place to move forward with an MOU and get the database going?
The two entities, Cocoa and Nutmeg.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Gerard Joseph, GBN. A question for the Minister. Minister, what is the selection process for the Farmers Grant Program? What is the criteria for selection, and why I ask that question is because we're hearing reports of complaints about fairness in the process. I believe so.
Well, the honest truth, could I just say something?
It's Agricom.
Yeah.
Explain.
If it's Agricom, Mr. Joseph, we cannot talk about fairness because no selection have been made, as the minister articulated earlier on. His 22 business plans are received and no decision has been made yet. But clearly, I think they would have a lot of transparency in the process. I could tell you that the applications are made, and even when it was first presented, more or less, the people under the management of the Agricom project has been indicating, to the applicants, the clusters that make changes here, there, and people have been going back and forth. So it cannot be said, really, that there had been unfairness in the system.
I think what I think is the problem, I don't think they understood the concept properly, the project concept. I don't think so. A lot of people have been these clusters, getting people in clusters had been a problem because we have had programs before where persons can go in and apply singularly. Yeah. But now it's clusters and people don't get the grasping that understanding at all. So I think that is one of the main problems with that. People not understanding that new concept that's in the program. Yes. But
we also have to be mindful. We also have to be mindful that it's a World Bank funded project, and the World Bank, believe me, the World Bank, the EU, they're very strict regarding compliance and so forth. So the project can just say, oh, you see somebody apply, make an application, a business plan, and it don't really meet the criteria, and then approve it. It would have the World Bank on them would be, So as much as possible, support would be provided to the clusters in terms of, that's why there are training and so forth. So after that business plan, let's say 15 business plans were approved. Later, you'd have people who would be working with those clusters to improve the business plan and make sure it's consistent with the criteria set out by the project, So rest assured, Mr. Joseph, that there would be a lot of accountability and transparency in the process in terms of selection and everything else.
There's a competent team that will be that is being put together now to look over all the plans and all the that was presented. So I think it's really the problem is understanding. A lot of the farmers don't. People came to me as well, and they were saying, "Oh, we ain't getting the program," and they didn't understand how the program is built, how it's designed. So I've been explaining that and trying to tell some of them maybe they need to go to the GIDC program, the GDB program, small business program. It more fit what they're doing,
needs, yeah.
you know, and things of that sort, yeah.
With an all fairness to the people who involved in the management of the Agricom project, they have went on the length and breadth in Grenada, including Carriacou, explaining to potential recipients, you know, what the project entail and everything. Presentation we made far and wide all over. So in a sense, that was as a part of the sensitizing, you know, program, outreach program on the part of the project.
And my final question, yesterday in St. Patrick's, I believe was River Sally, over $15,000 worth of watermelon was destroyed. Can you give us, well, in relation to that, can you give us an update on the surveillance equipment that the ministry was looking into?
Well, as you know, there are certain things really that is beyond the reach of the ministry in terms of, you know, somebody going to farm, destroy and all, because, I mean, but what I could tell you is the ministry is very, very sensitive to those kind of things because they're talking about serious, you know, undermining of farmers, you know, livelihood, you know, through this kind of action. And even under the prior larceny, where farmers lose a lot of the produce and so forth, and the ministry had to find resources in recent times. I think we had some cameras which were bought, and we have at the moment. And we are hopeful. We have a number of farmers who made application to purchase some of those. I think some, yes, privately, exactly. And so we think things that, and that again only highlight the critical necessity of farmers themselves to put things like that in place so you could hold culprits who both steal your crops and who would want to do harm to your, you know, your crops. So maybe it's another appeal in general because there are certain things you remember. Farming is not like a factory. You have enclosed security. It's just open. People could just, it's hard. But the ministry is really, really regretful that such a action had taken place, you know, affecting a farmer in a very, very significant way. And we are sincerely hope that the culprit could be brought to justice.
Just to add to what Daniel spoke about, we are working on a hotline at the moment so that they can easily call. And we are also looking at the pre-larceny legislation. It's before the amendments to the legislation, the existing legislation. It's before the Ministry of Legal Affairs. Just yesterday, I had a call from Legal Affairs saying that they just wanted some more information to tidy up the document so we can bring it to Parliament and straighten it out. So that's where we are with them. What we really, you know, it's sad to know that, you know, I haven't heard the news. I've just heard it from people because I got them early. And they were telling me about it. But it's very sad to know that, you know, I mean, in this day and age, we're still doing these things, our own farmers. And so I don't know the story behind it. But, you know, and this is so terrible, you know.
Just a quick follow-up. You said you have Mr. Lewis, you said you had the cameras. How would the cameras from the ministry be used?
Well, we don't want to expose that too much. Sorry. Yeah. Well, actually, the suggestion had been made that the use of camera could be a potential weapon in terms of apprehending persons involved in prior larceny acts, and therefore farmers come to the realization that that is the case, and that's precisely why the ministry recently had bought a number of cameras, and then we have support from the IGPF. I think some of the technicians would install and so forth. We don't want to talk too much about that because we don't want to let out the security. And so, you know, the idea is to install, just as you install, you know, security camera in your homes, you'd want to do it on the farm as well, you know? Yeah.
Minister, just let me ask, you did mention that you only heard the news through second party. Do you have plans to visit the farm and the farmers?
I already spoke to a team of persons to visit and give us a report.
From the Northern Agriculture District.
Yeah.
Will you be visiting them?
Oh, well,
Receiving the report is one thing.
yeah, well, I will see the report and visit. I always in the field. This is no doubt about it. And I hope to visit the young man as well. Yeah. I told him that this morning. Yeah.
You mentioned the amendments to the pedia legislation. Are you in an idea as to what type of amendments we're looking at? What was the recommendation? Can we expect comment?
No, wait,
Yeah,
I
the details.
have not followed on too much. You remember what has been happening?
I don't remember exactly.
Yes, we did. Precisely. But I think it meant to, because some of the old laws and the books tend to be antiquated. It doesn't fit the current criteria. But I think the idea is, and the bottom line is, the amendment made is meant to strengthen the whole question of pride larceny, because the ministry feels that as it moment it's not sufficiently robust to deal with the proliferation of pride larceny acts that we see happening in the society, and even increasing penalties and other things like that. We foresee that would be, part of the amendment.
As it stands right now, is there a specific pedia larceny law, or are we looking to amend various legislation that will impact pedia larceny?
There's a specific pride larceny act. Yeah. There is a specific one that deals with pride larceny.
Minister, my question to you now has to do with safety. We have passed the food safety bill in Grenada, and it encompasses quite a number of things. Is the ministry in a position to say what is being done with our butchers? Butchers. And the reason why I asked that, researching something is I realized that our Butchers Act did all the way back to 19-something, where butchers only had to pay $3 and go through a process to get licensed. And it fell under the responsibility of the Ministry for Agriculture. Is the Ministry of Agriculture in a position now to say how much certified or registered butchers we have, and so forth, with regard to the safety of meat consumption for the citizen?
Well, abattoirs and all of that is under the Ministry of Agriculture now. That has been recently done. Is that so? Yes. And we are looking at all the legislation now that relates to the whole program. Because what has been happening over the years, if you look all around in the communities, people just hold an animal, kill it, and the inspectors don't even turn up. You don't have any inspectors or anything coming into the communities and all of that. And you're not sure whether the meat is safe or not. We are looking at pulling all of this now and put it into one package to make sure that this is controlled. The abattoir in the state-of-the-art abattoir in Maribor is where all of these animals will be going to be slaughtered. Nowhere else. When this whole thing is compiled and organized, that will be the place where all animals will be slaughtered. We are putting the structures in place to accommodate all of that now. So nobody would be slaughtering animal on the roadside in Wester Hall or wherever these places that you see they're slaughtering all about. And, the meat sometimes is not even inspected by somebody from the Ministry of Health. So we have to put this in place. We are working on it now. We are working on the abattoir. We are also working on developing the small ruminants so we can have enough to sustain the abattoir as well. So a number of things are taking place now simultaneously.
Based on what you said, there is now presently a pulling together of all the relevant legislation.
We're pulling the legislation
that pertains
now.
to food
Yes.
safety?
Yes, yes,
yes.
yes.
Those that fall under the responsibility of agriculture, or those that fall under health and so
We are working closely with health. We must work closely with health. Yeah.
Well, Linda could tell you also that under the EDF, they had a model food safety bill, which we are looking at now. It was done for the Carriacou level, also animal and plant plant health bill. Just to go back a little, prior to the commissioning of the abattoir, training was done for a number of butchers in Grenada, because we recognize still, there is people have been involved in butchering for a number of years, but they have the expertise for special cuts and so forth. And the intention was that all butchering should be done in the abattoir, but that is not the case. So clearly, I mean, imagine you have somebody somewhere in some small village butchering without, as the minister said, doing necessary inspection. It's something we should not condone because clearly there is a potential negative impact on health and so forth. Animal might be sick, suffering something and so forth. And if that passes through, you know, consumers could be at great risk because there is a lot of zoonotic diseases and so forth. So in that regard, it's a work in progress, you know, to move in that direction where you could have all butchers certified and, you know, properly with the necessary paperwork and so forth. Maybe that is what we're heading, but we are not there yet.
So as it stands right now, there is a possibility that persons can be consuming butchered meat that is not fit for human consumption?
There's a possibility because you know what happens during festive seasons, somebody have an animal, whether it's goat, sheep, pig, butcher it in some backyard. You know, the ministry cannot have control or everything like that. But the idea is, how do you sensitize the public? Where to buy what and under what condition, and you have to educate our public so that the sensitizing programs, even to the butchers themselves, indicating that this is the best thing to do, ensure that you do things consistent with food safety principles and so forth, you know. Fortunately in Grenada, believe me, you hear about food scares in the States all along and other places where people fortunately die from foodborne diseases, and we have not had that kind of. It's one of the, maybe we have good immunity, you know. Exactly.
But I believe when the structures are put in place, when the legislation is being looked at, when we put the whole package together, people would be very, very cautious. People would not get into doing things, you know, because that is something that you could probably, you know, monitor in the communities, because everybody go to a particular place to buy the meat. Yeah. Miss Jane is killing a pig, you know, the whole community comes out there to get a piece of meat, you know. So all of that we have to more consultation and more discussions on the subject, but we're moving in that direction to put some structure in place to ensure that food safety, you know, is being recognized in every strata of the society.
Do we have any further questions this morning, or have we exhausted the discussion? Okay, it seems like we have exhausted the discussion. Minister and Mr. Lewis, any final thoughts or comments from you?
Go ahead, speak last.
Oh yes, from my perspective, I mean, it was a great pleasure to interface with the public at large. I would like to indicate that the ministry is working assiduously to put a lot of system in place. We come into the realization now that the sector is totally different from what we used to have. A lot of more emphasis on food safety, making the agriculture sector more professional, as you see now under even our projects like Agricom. It's not a matter like in the days gone by, money dished out to farmers or support without the necessary. A lot of donor agencies are demanding much more from the recipients who receive funding, you know, having to be much more transparent and more accountable. So the ministry is working a lot into that direction. Clearly, food safety is becoming a big, big issue for us, as you know. In the days gone by, you could see right now, even look at the GCNA, for example. Even something we didn't talk about in this thing, biosafety. For example, even now when they export nutmeg, the people, for example, recently we had a report from, not a report, a request from one of the big buyers of nutmeg in Europe that they want to ensure, they want paperwork to indicate that the nutmeg being sold to them are non-GMO. You notice GMO, genetically modified organisms, so we have to write and things. So the things are changing, and the ministry have to keep pace with all those changes. So there is a lot of emphasis now, we didn't speak about it, the climate change approaches to agriculture development. So there's a lot to talk about, and the ministry, despite all the challenges, we're trying to work and see how we could work close with our stakeholders in ensuring that they could capitalize on all potential support and investment, whether it's from donor agency or otherwise. Thank you very much.
Not much more to add, except to let farmers know to take advantage of the programs and projects that we have at the ministry. You know, they should really get into the programs and make sure that they use the right methods when they're planting and use the right climate smart practices that are available. We have so much information to share on that. SIPE is coming up with a program. The ministry has a program on it as well. So we should really work together. We should, learn as much as you can to ensure that you follow the right practices that have been set out there for you. And, work together with the Ministry of Agriculture. I also want to, at this point in time, to highlight a young man, Kawani James. You heard about Kawani James. He won his heat in the World Athletic Championship in Doha, 44.94 seconds. So that is good news for the press as well. Our Grenadian-born Kawani James. A success again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, and what a good note to end on. Not to minimize all of the updates we had from the agriculture sector, a lot of interesting developments taking place, positive developments, and of course, lots more happening, but those specific areas we highlighted here this morning. Of course, the ministry always remains accessible to providing responses to questions from the media. The Office of the Press Secretary is also willing to facilitate whatever queries you may have. So with that, we come to the end of this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. Thank you very much to Minister and the Chief Agricultural Officer for being here this morning and for leading a very, what shall we say, vibrant discussion, informative discussion, so many updates. I think Linda had a field day this morning. Lots of stories to come. Okay, so I will see you again next week. I am Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated. Grenada's economy is heading for its 7th year of consistent growth, averaging over 5%. Unemployment was reduced by 20%, while debt to GDP ratio was reduced from 108% to 63.5%. NNP committed to the economic and social development of our people. NNP delivering on the promise.
You're now relaxing on Grand Anse Beach with the wind in your hair and sand on your feet, hearing the sound of the waves crashing on the shore and birds chirp.
Miss, you want any coconut water?
No, thank you.
Oh gosh, miss, buy something now. What about these pretty necklaces?
No, thank you, sir.
You sure you don't want no coconut water? It's good for your daughter, Miss, you have any children?
This is harassment. One bad experience could translate into the loss of new and repeat visitors. Tourism benefits everyone. Tourism is everybody's business.
If you want to stay married, divorce speed. Never drink and drive. After whiskey, driving is risky. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Grenada's economy is heading for its 7th year of consistent growth, averaging over 5%. Unemployment was reduced by 20%, while debt to GDP ratio was reduced from 108% to 63.5%. NNP committed to the economic and social development of our people. NNP delivering on the promise. Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.
You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada via www.hardtalkgrenada.com.
My enemies' walls are bound to crumble, and to the floor their spears will fall. I've been made and sealed with love, but time to battle, I'll find them all. I felt the whips and remember chains, but my sword has been forged by my father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. 'Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer, conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer.
And good morning to you, Grenada, Carriacou, and Pity Martinique. Once again, it is time for Hard Talk. 3 minutes after the hour of 11 o'clock.
No retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of years.
And we say a special good morning to all of you joining us via the various mediums.
Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles.
All of the listeners via 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, Sister Isle 92.9, and of course in Brooklyn, the big bad We Noise Radio 94.9. So you can check out We Noise Radio on their website. And you could do the same for, even CRFM, Sister Isle FM, everybody on the website. Everybody on the website. Gotta get the list so we can give you directly, yeah? You can also check us out live on YouTube. Yeah, Hard Talk Grenada on YouTube. Just remember to subscribe so each time we go live, you'll get the live video. Also, you can look for us on Facebook, Hard Talk Grenada Live.
I want to say thank you, Lord. You are everything, Father. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. You just had the post-cabinet press briefing.
No man shall lead my
So before I get into some of the details of the post-cabinet press briefing, and there was quite a lot,
friends turn enemies.
Yeah, some people that say nothing happened in agriculture, they need to listen over that post-cabinet press briefing. That's why we will be rebroadcasting it at 8 p.m. tonight via CRFM 89.5. We'll also be rebroadcasting it at 3 a.m. via the same media, 89.5. And for those of you in Brooklyn, at 10 p.m. we'll be rebroadcasting this morning's post-cabinet press briefing, today's program overall, as we do daily, Monday to Friday. And pretty much as soon as we're finished with the program, you can relook the live video on both YouTube and on Facebook. There is quite a bit of information there from Postcap. But before we head to the Postcap, let's take in a bit of sports, Karani James advancing to the semi-final of the men's 400 meter at the IAAF World Championships in Doha, Qatar.
Who are you to tell?
He was in action this morning as promised, not too sure what's up with Braylon. We're not hearing of Braylon. I'm not too sure if he did not make it to Qatar or what's the situation. The Grenada Olympic Association will let us know in due time what is the situation with Braylon and why he was unable to be in the heats this morning.
And to the floor the spears will fall.
So indeed, Karani James advancing with the fastest time in the semi-final, to the semi-finals, he ran a time of exactly 44.94 seconds, winning his heat and also qualifying in the first position in the semi-finals. So he's the fastest going into the semi-finals at 44.94. Everybody else ran 45s. This comes on the back of his first race for the year where he ran 44.47. So now he ran 44.94 in the heats into the qualifiers. So tomorrow, Karani will be in action, God's willing. You can look forward to that at 1:35 p.m. Again, Karani will be in action tomorrow. That's Wednesday at 1:35 p.m. You can look forward to seeing Grenada's own Karani James in action in the semi-finals as he's trying to make it now into the finals.
Because I will conquer. Oh, I will conquer. Yes, I will conquer. Conquer them. Come on, let's conquer. Oh, I will conquer.
Out of the Caribbean, we also have Demish Gay out of Jamaica with 45.02 qualifying.
No retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of years. I was born as a Makai warrior. And the Almighty.
You have Marshall Cedeno out of Trinidad in 45.26.
This morning, first thing as I wake up.
Akeem Bloomfield in 45.34. Yeah, I think that's it for the Caribbean. As no, we have the Bahamian Stephen Gardenia, and he's on 45.68.
The Congo Jama, let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. No weapon that form against us.
So that rounds out the Caribbean into the semi-finals of the men's 400 meter. Interesting though that Jamaica was unable to make it into the semi-final round of the men's 200 meter. Wow.
I will conquer. Yes, I will conquer.
I have to ask my Jamaican friends what's up with that, man.
Come on, let's conquer.
But at least they have Shaliana and them doing some stuff there for them. Nice, yeah. The women holding firm, and not just women, mothers holding firm there for Team Jamaica. Yeah, they are Caribbean brothers and sisters. When they do well, we're glad too.
You're everything, Father.
So, folks, make it a date if you had to take lunch. You're going to take lunch around that time, whatever you're doing. So, Karani will be in action, God's willing, around 1:35 tomorrow. Yeah, in the semi-final round of the men's 400 meter. And the final taking place at 20 minutes after 3 on Friday. I kept saying after 4, but it's 20 minutes after 3 on Friday will be the finals of the men's 400 meter.
Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide.
In the interim tomorrow, Team Grenada continues on the tracks, yeah. Lyndon Victor starts his medal chase. The men's decathlon tomorrow morning.
Yes, I will conquer. Conquer them. Come on, let's conquer. Oh, I will conquer. Rise up and conquer. Conquer them. I am a man. I am a champion. I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Yes, indeed. Just trying to get some information here. I'm trying to pull up my schedule for the decathlon tomorrow. Because, yes, all right. So we have the decathlon, and that's going to be starting 9:35 tomorrow with the 100 meter. And let me see which one of the heats our own Lyndon Victor is in. He's in heat number 3. That's scheduled for 9 minutes to 10. Tomorrow morning, Lyndon Victor, you'll be wearing bib 1004 in lane number 3. All right, so Lyndon Victor leading off his charge in the decathlon tomorrow morning, and you can look for him in heat 3, lane 3. All right, yeah, and he's going up against the big man there, Damian Warner. Yeah, Damian Warner, man. That's the man everybody afraid in the decathlon. And he'll be going up against him tomorrow in heat number 3 of the men's 100 meter as part of the decathlon. So he'll be in action approximately 9 minutes to 10 tomorrow morning in the decathlon. All right, nice, beautiful.
In a big heap of look before you leap. For curiosity, take a peep. Look before you end up. Drowned in the deep. What I'm trying
unless you're sure about it. Don't jump, don't act like you're mad. It might be too dangerous. Think about it first. Once you leave the rock.
After that, roughly at about 10:30, in position number 6 in the men's long jump in Group 2, Group B, we'll have Grenada's Lyndon Victor. That's in the men's long jump. That starts around 10:30. So the second group, right? The second group to be jumping. And they start, 10:30 tomorrow. So we'll have our own Lyndon Victor in action tomorrow, both morning and evening. So could be looking for him throughout the day tomorrow.
And all the goals that you set out for, suddenly is all great.
And we've got a call online. Good morning, my dear.
Morning, my sweetheart.
Morning.
Kirani run already?
Yes, he has, and he won.
Hey?
Yes, he has, and he won his race.
1 o'clock?
No, he ran already, and he was able to win his race.
You like? Yes!
Yeah, he won. So that's his heat. That's just the heats. That's the preliminary races. So he's running tomorrow again at 1:35. All right?
Thank you, Lord.
All right, my dear.
I say good morning to everybody for me.
All right.
All right, darling.
Okay, come here.
I listen. All right, thank you. Yes, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I might call back later.
Yeah, so for those of you that haven't seen it yet, Karani did win his preliminary race. He also finished at the top of the table for the preliminary round, the heats, with a time of 44.94. The only athlete in the heats to run a sub-45 time. Yeah, I'm expecting that the finals is going to be a sub-44. Yeah, the World Championships finals is going to be won by someone, and we know who, but won by someone running 43. In fact, I expect at the very least, 3 athletes to dip below 44. That's my prediction for the finals. At least 3 athletes to dip below 44 seconds in the men's 400 meter of the World Championships. That's what I expect. Yeah. Yeah. The Americans are looking to regain their throne as the 400 meter champions. Don't like the idea of Grenadians and South Africans and so forth holding the championship. So they're trying their very best. So remember, our own Lyndon Victor is also in action tomorrow. So we have to remember the aggregate amount of points based on his position in the various events that he's taking part in. So we have to look and see how he progresses. If he comes in the top 2, top 3, wins a couple of the events and so on, the aggregate amount of points that he has to amass to be able to medal or win in the decathlon. So we're looking at that, and we also look forward on Saturday to see our own Anderson Peters. Yeah, Anderson Peters, he'll be into the javelin. That'll be taking place on Saturday. So we're looking forward to seeing that one as well. So we're looking Saturday is what day again? Let me just make sure so I could give you the exact time that Anderson, I don't think the list has come out yet as to what time what group he's in, but let me see. Yeah, because there's one group that will be throwing at 9:30 and one group that will be throwing at 11. So when they send out the list, we'd know which group Anderson Peters is in, so we can let you know whether to tune in at 9:30 to see him or whether you tune in at 11. So that's the qualification group A, qualification group B on Saturday. One group at 9:30, one group at 11. Once he qualifies into the final will be taking place on Sunday in the men's javelin Pan American. I kept saying Commonwealth, but it's Pan American champion Anderson Peters heading into competition on the weekend. All right. So the finals would be starting on Sunday at 12:55. So you have enough time to make it to church and make it back home to be able to view Anderson Peters in action this Sunday once he makes it over to the finals of the men's javelin. All right, so we're looking forward to that one on the weekend as well. So 6 days of Grenadians in action at the World Championships. As soon as we get some information as to the status with Braylon, we'll let you know. He was announced by the Grenada Olympic Association as part of the Grenadian team heading out to Doha in Qatar. On looking at the heats, we realized that we didn't see his name on the heats. I don't know if it's a situation where he's changed events and he's doing the 200 or whatever. I saw him mentioned for the 400 meter. So as we get more info, we'll let you know. So again, for those of you that missed it, Kirani James progressing to the semi-finals of the men's 400 meter in Doha, Qatar, with a time of 44.94, the fastest time into the semi-finals. We have a call online. Good morning.
Good morning, Senator Sheldon.
Morning. How are you doing this morning, my dear?
Well, I'm in good grace.
All right.
Because I get me runner, I get me boy, I hear it by the grace of God. When I hear that, Brother Sheldon, I jump up. Oh, Lord. When I finish jump up, so me head out, me okay. He get it, he come out and GBN.
Don't jump too high now. Don't jump too high.
It's a good thing I jump. It's a good thing the window closed. If the window didn't close, I might have jump out in it.
Oh, dear.
And what, Brother Senator Sheldon, I want to send my sympathy to our mommy. Mommy Judge?
Mm-hmm.
She cousin died in Trinidad yesterday.
Oh, dear.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, our sympathy, or the Hard Talk family sympathy to you, Mommy George. We know that you're locked in and listening, so our sympathies to you.
I want this, especially Sister, why is she name again, by? The one that was all-time Carlos.
Miss Noriega?
Yes. She says she tried to get Sister Noriega, but she couldn't get her.
All of this crew.
In Michigan.
Yes, all of this crew, eh?
Accept my sympathy to her, darling.
All right.
Yes.
All right, Miss Jacob. You enjoy the rest of your day.
But Devon, I want to hear about the 19 coming up, you know.
Yeah, Devon needs to give us a call.
October coming up.
Yes. You're correct.
Yes.
He needs to give us a call.
Darling.
All right, my dear.
Have a nice day. God bless you and love you.
And same to you, love you, and God bless you and all of the listeners as well.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye.
And folks, as a guide, I'm bringing it one time. Let's hear what Karani had to say after his race.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. No, it wasn't easy. No, I think I had the race under control, but Wals from Japan really, I think his last 100 was very impressive, you know, so I think that's the beauty of the sport, beauty of the event is that everybody wants to make it to the next round and you can't really take anything for granted, so, you know, I'm proud of him for, you know, doing what he's doing, representing his country, and trying to get to the next round, so, yeah, it wasn't as easy as it looks. Yeah. No, I just told him it was a good run. He ran really good. Well, I have to see the start list first, and once I see that, then you know you can kind of formulate a race plan and that kind of stuff. But I'm just happy to move on to the next round.
Are you fully healthy?
As healthy as I can be. So yeah.
Is that why you waited so long to race this year?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Is it weird? This is the World Championships, and it's only your second over 100 of the year.
Yeah, it's the World Championship, and it's also October, so you know. Yeah.
Everything's weird.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yes, indeed, folks. So I just pull that one time as a gate. I take it one time. You understand? Yeah, we can't stick on them thing, and then when we get, we had to take it one time. And nice, beautiful. Yeah.
I come to you this day.
I'll attempt to get the entire interview because it ended sort of abruptly there and they were still asking questions. So I'll attempt to get the entire interview.
Forgiveness for the wrong things
But again, Karani saying there that it was not an easy race, yeah? He was impressed by the Japanese runner there. Yeah, you saw him looking across as he was nearing the finish line. Because he ran an impressive last 100 meter. Nice, yeah. We have a call online.
Sheldon.
Good morning.
Oh, everything.
You're quite fine.
Yeah, man. I feel so proud of our brother, our beloved son of Messiah, Kieran James, for making us once again proud. Alright? I want to say thanks to Kieran James and congratulations to him. And Brother Sheldon, the days when we Grenadian want to see our athletes make the Olympic final, the world final are over. When we going to compete for gold, nothing else but gold. Alright? And I want to thank God to the government, the NP government, for bringing sports development to the youth and youth of Great Carriacou competing Martin. Alright? Because we have a Prime Minister that cares about sports, that cares about young people. I want to say congratulations to Kieran James for making proud of all the athletes that will be taking part. They will make us proud again. And we're expecting more from the other athletes that's partaking. So I want to say congratulations to Brother Kieran James. Keep up the good work, and we are 100% behind you. So, Brother Sheldon, you have a wonderful.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, indeed. And you see, that's the thing, Karani James, no matter what he does, and we know he'll always do his best, we're 1,000,000 to infinity% behind him. Yeah, we'll always continue being behind our Grenadian hero, Karani James, yeah? In a short while, it's now 23 minutes after 11. In a short while, we'll take the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority program at 11:30, and then we'll get into discussion in relation to this morning's post-cabinet press briefing. As I said, a lot of news in relation to what's going on with agriculture. $2 million into irrigation projects, yeah? Training for over 40 people in crop production, agro-processing. So we'll have a discussion on that immediately after the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority program at 11:30. In the interim, we're fielding your calls.
Lord, on my knees, I can see so much wrong and iniquity.
Also, yeah, taking a little reflection on Karani's race this morning. Looking forward to tomorrow's race. As he said, he's looking forward to tomorrow's race. So he has to see the start list because you got to know who you're up against going into the semi-finals there. Because you've got two people with sub 44 times for the year, yeah? Two individuals with sub 44 times for the year.
Lord government, I now bring before you, for there are the
well, not two, you've actually got about four. Yeah.
the backs on the people, 15 could turn into 5. For there are servants of the people, Lord, not servants to themselves.
Let me say a special good morning to all of you onto the live this morning. Louisa, Hannah, good morning to all. Each Shemi, I'm seeing you there. Sherry, good morning. Meryl, good morning to Lulu, good morning to you. I'm seeing all of you onto the live this morning. A very special good morning, yeah.
I hope the PM will listen.
Remember to like and share the live. Like and share the live.
Do what's right.
Those of you viewing via YouTube. Yes, special good morning to you as well. We go back to the phone lines. Good morning. Hey, Kami.
Apologize, I lost my respect to say good morning to Mr. Watson, Dingo, and Patty, and Kirani, and everybody. I was so excited, I want to know if you win the race.
Yeah.
So I lost my respect. I apologize to all the listeners. Ian, everybody, good morning. Therefore, everybody. Good morning again.
It is understandable.
So, and all the busmen and all the people in Grenada are listening. Miss Yolanda also, good morning. And you know something, Sheldon? It was so sad to see what they did to that farmer, cut up the watermelon.
Yeah.
I mean, oh Lord, I feel so heartbroken for these people. And I wish the only person that do that.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
The one take it to the thing and they cut it up. That is not nice. I wish the police call them and let it pay for that what they do. So Grenada have a blessed day. And manage the Prime Minister, Mr. David, and your family. Morning to everybody. Are there any terminal here? Good morning, me. But I still have a little voice.
Yes, you're fighting it.
Devon, good morning, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
All
Love
right,
you, all
bye-bye.
right.
Love you as well. Yes, indeed.
15 could turn into 5. For there are servants of the people, Lord, not servants to themselves. Serve not only your supporters, but every hungry mouth must be fed. The opposition, I bring likewise, even though they don't have a seat. But for the future sake of the party, Lord, the heart they bound to cleaning. I hope the PM will listen my song. For the government I now pray. Do what's right, never what is wrong. For the government I now pray. It's time NDC sees the light. For the opposition I pray. Realize Nazim Bok is applied. For the opposition I pray. Let there be signs of unity.
Yes, indeed, 4407377.
Government and opposition, Lord.
And 347-329-3101. Those are the numbers in case you want to get onto the inside. In about 2 minutes, we're going to take the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority program for this morning.
My Lord, thou hast made me strong, and I can speak boldly about.
And you know, again, it says a lot about the vision of the new National Party from since 1995 coming up to now. That particular focus, on sports and youth development. Because prior to that, all you had was, you had the Division of Youth, which was basically a desk. At a time, it was in the Ministry of Education. So it was like a division, not even a full ministry. You didn't have a Ministry of Youth before. You had like a Division of Youth that was attached somewhere under the Ministry of Education. One time it end up under Tourism. Where did it end up again? It was just attached to different ministries over the years. And during that time, the entire budget for the Ministry of Youth used to be things like $14,000 for the year under the Division of Youth. But it took the new National Party in 1995 to now to raise it to the point that it's now a full ministry with a specific policy towards the development of Grenada's youth. Yeah? We have a caller. Good morning. Hello, good morning.
You two is on it?
Yeah, good. It wouldn't distract me today, my dear. Yeah. So it took the new National Party to come up and do that, get it to the stage now where it is a full ministry, where you have millions of dollars going into youth development, where you have things like youth developmental programs for youth enterprise and so on. So it has developed. And now you're seeing the fruits of that coming up. Many of the young people that you're seeing now who started off under the Imani program. Many people who, small businesses that were started through the youth program. And when you see the athletes out there who you know may not have had locally the start to be able to go out now and represent Grenada on the world stage, where we could be talking about the possibility of medals with every athlete that we send to a meet. Yeah, but it's now 11:30, so we're going to go over to the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority program, and then we'll be right back with more Hard Talk.
Good morning, listeners. Welcome to our program brought to you by the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority. Before we begin this morning's feature, this message. The Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, in consultation with the Ministry of Health, has taken the decision to immediately discontinue use of the garbage collection point on the compound of the Grenville car park. The removal of this collection point is due to frequent complaints of constant presence of waste in the vicinity, waste being washed out to sea, and unsightliness in the general vicinity, resulting in the harborage of rats and other disease-carrying pests. It is to this extent, vendors and businesses are therefore asked to take their generated waste to the garbage receptacle near the entrance to Victoria Park in tied bags. If you have cardboard boxes to rid of, please ensure they are broken down and tied together to save space and prevent spills. You are reminded that the garbage collection service for the town of Grenville are 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. every day. The Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority is delighted to work with you to ensure the provision of a reliable garbage collection service. Should you have any questions on the arrangement, please feel free to contact the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority on 444-2019 to have your queries addressed. Thank you. Now for today's program. In keeping with this morning's message, for today's presentation, we look at best practices towards the proper management of waste for those involved in the commercial sector, primarily throughout our towns. In a previous program, we spoke about the critical role waste management plays in the planning stage of hosting outdoor events so as to mitigate any negative health, social, and environmental effect on completion. One of the many concerns raised was that little to no attention is oftentimes given towards facilitating the waste generated as a result of those activities. This morning, the same can be said for some commercial establishments in our towns. Oftentimes, the establishment of a waste disposal facility on the premises of a business is considered an afterthought, and little to no priority is given to the establishment of such until waste generation becomes a burden during business operations. With no thought given to how the waste generated will be disposed of, a now common occurrence we see taking place around us on a daily basis are sidewalks and alleyways which should be used for pedestrian traffic are oftentimes impassable due to huge quantities of cardboard boxes, bubble wrap, cling wrapping, styrofoam packing, plastic bags, paper, among other items left out unsecured in the open environment, not only blocking the path of pedestrians, but also creating eyesores, harboring disease-carrying vermin, etc. Due to the level of commercial activity taking place in our towns, the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, in its bid towards the provision of an effective and efficient garbage collection service, has seen the need to provide a twice daily collection service to every town across the country. You would appreciate that the times set aside for this twice daily collection service are early mornings and late evenings so as not to disrupt commercial activity during the day. Hence, commercial establishments are therefore required to get acquainted with the times for garbage collection in our towns and refrain from cultivating the habit of placing waste out as it is generated by the establishment. The proper management of waste at commercial houses is one that should be taken very seriously. No one should be conducting business in our towns and be challenged with the untimely disposal of waste from commercial establishments. To this end, the authority would like to share these few guidelines to assist those involving commercial activities towards the proper management of waste generated at their establishment. 1. Refrain from placing waste out on sidewalks or alleyways as soon as it's generated. Establish a waste storage unit on the compound of your business away from the eyes of the public, but at a point that can be easily accessed by your private waste hauler. 2. Large commercial establishments, you are required to transport your waste directly to the landfills for safe disposal and refrain from using the garbage collection services provided for householders. 3. If you send waste to the landfills, you can verify that it was taken to the site and not illegally dumped by calling the landfill office for a report on its arrival, the quantities, type and time of arrival. And 4. Refrain from giving the responsibility of waste disposal to mentally challenged persons or drifters who are known to be disruptive. Oftentimes, they don't do a good job and contribute to the illegal dump sites in our towns. This has been our presentation for today. Do enjoy the remainder of your day from the Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority.
Imagine that you've worked all year and finally able to escape to Grenada for the perfect holiday. You are now relaxing on Grandance Beach with the wind in your hair and sand on your feet, hearing the sound of the waves crashing on the shore and birds chirp.
Miss, you want any coconut water?
No, no thank you.
Oh gosh, miss, buy something now. What about these pretty necklaces?
No thank you, sir.
You sure you don't want no coconut water? It's good for your daughter, you know. Miss, you have any children?
This is harassment. One bad experience could translate into the loss of new and repeat visitors. Tourism benefits everyone. Tourism is everybody's business.
All right, folks, and before we move forward, I am going to play an address regarding Credit Union Month by Her Excellency Dame Cecile La Grenade, Governor General. So I'm going to play that for you right about now, and then we'll get back to our normal programming.
The following is an address by Governor General Her Excellency Dame Cecile La Grenade in observance of International Credit Union Month.
Dear members of the Grenada Credit Union Movement, fellow Grenadians, today I join with you in marking the beginning of International Credit Union Month as we celebrate the continued advancement of credit unions not only the world over, but also right here in our Tri-Island state. The theme for this year's celebration is Local Service, Global Reach. First, allow me to acknowledge and underscore the very beneficial and meaningful work of the Grenada Cooperative League Limited in our society. The League serves as a beacon for the development of our people and hence the nation. It responds to the training needs of its staff and affiliates, invests in innovation and youth development, and aims at expanding and developing the services it offers. The League's advancement is of paramount importance when one considers the relevance of the Grenada Credit Union movement to our country's development. As of December the 31st, 2018, the Grenada movement recorded 66,451 members and an asset base of 864 million EC dollars, representing a 13% growth over 2017. There was also an increase in loans given to its members by 11.7%. With this impressive rate of growth, the Grenada Credit Union movement is poised to become a key social, financial, and economic player in our country. I note with keen interest that the League's goals for the period 2019 to 2020 are, in part, focused on deeper engagement with policymakers on the strategic role of credit unions in the economy, and that its strategic plan looks towards strengthening financial performance. This is the kind of focus that Grenada will need to drive its National Sustainable Development Plan 2035. In fact, strong corporate governance, financial stability, and strategic partnerships have been identified as critical success factors required to move our country forward on a positive, sustainable development path. I fully support and welcome the measures to be undertaken in this regard and the role that our credit unions will play in our national development. As we reflect on this year's theme, Local Service, Global Reach, I want us to recognize and appreciate our unique Grenadianisms, our demonstrated ability to work together and help each other, our involvement in cooperative ventures, that it is no wonder that the Grenada Credit Union movement continues to grow by leaps and bounds. In our small interconnected Tri-Island state, heavily reliant on its natural and human resources, these qualities embedded in our psyche are necessary for our continued progress and development and are expressed in the work of the Grenada Credit Union movement. The recent selfless spirit exhibited following the bus accident on Friday the 20th of September on the Carriacou and our ready support for and assistance to our neighbors stricken by recent hurricane disasters are testimony to this. Much has gone into the League's strategic focus on investment in technology. Keeping abreast with technological advances will foster improvements in efficiency, maintain relevance, boost competitiveness. I applaud the movement for its vision over the years, never forgetting the basic principles and shared values upon which our first credit unions were formed and the leading light they continue to be in our country. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to officially declare Credit Union Month 2019 open.
The preceding was an address by Governor General Her Excellency Dame Cecile La Grenade in observance of Credit Union Month.
If you think safety rules are a pain, try having an accident. Drive safely. A message from the Traffic Department of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
I am Grenadian. I am Grenadian.
Yes, indeed.
I am Grenadian.
Yes, and so, post-cabinet press briefing this morning, we had the Honorable Yolan Bain Hosford, or Minister of Agriculture, on this morning. Quite a bit of information. As we said, we'll be rebroadcasting the specific press conference itself. We'll be rebroadcasting that at 8 p.m. tonight via 89.5 and 3 a.m. and on 94.9 in Brooklyn at 10 p.m. tonight. There's so much. $2 million toward irrigation, yeah. And we know we've been going through some serious dry spells. If you have to keep up agricultural production, you must have access to water from where it is to where you need it. So you have $2 million available through the Ministry of Agriculture to assist farmers with irrigation. Remember, you need to register as farmers and so to go and get your farmer's ID and those kind of things. Do things properly.
But with sacrifice, we rise up tremendously. So tell them we proud of we country. Tell them we proud of we land. Tell them we proud of we people. Proud Grenadian. Just tell them we proud of.
Hey, good morning to you, Irvin. Good morning to you, Cousin Christine. That's very important to be able to access proper irrigation for the lands that you have right now. Because especially when you have those harsh dry seasons, and we have been having some serious dry spells this year. So if you can access water from a spring or from the river and so on to assist in your farms, yeah, that's going to be important. Yeah? Nice. Good. Also, the ministry has been leading in training for over 40 people in areas of crop production. Yeah, how to properly go through planting and all of that. Not just go and dig a hole and throw some seed or put a cutlet in or so on, but how to properly, the time that you need to do it. Yeah, the way that you need to do it. Certain things you have to plant at an angle, certain things you have to put a certain depth. Yeah? So crop production, agro-processing, which is an important area. Because as I've always said, agro-processing is an area that lots of persons can get involved in. Yeah? Whether it's the small cooperative of men or women who get into hot pepper and seasoning production, or it's a group of individuals that decides that they're going to make confectionery. So they start making the red mango and they start preserving plums and all of these sort of things and packaging it properly and selling it not only locally, but to the Grenadian diaspora, because we're talking hundreds of thousands of people in the Grenadian diaspora. So selling it to the Grenadian diaspora, selling it to the region. A market of 6 million people in the region. You don't need all 6 million. A 500,000 out of that would do good. A 200,000 out of that would do good. Yeah? But you have the access to that market, especially through the CSME and so on. You have access to these markets. So training these folks in agro-processing and crop production is very important. And one leads into the other. From the crop production, you go into the agro-processing. One leads into the other. Also, the minister spoke of the importance of the 4-H clubs. That's getting those youngsters interested and involved in agriculture, because it lends to them remaining involved in agriculture at a later stage. Even though they may branch off into another field, they may decide that I don't want to be a farmer as a living, and there's nothing wrong with being a farmer as a living, but they may decide that I'm branching off. Even if they're a lawyer or a doctor, they could still have their farm, because many lawyers and doctors that you know right now, they have the garden, they have the little farm. Whether it's a backyard garden or so on, or they have a couple acres somewhere, or a half an acre somewhere, that they have stuff growing on. So the 4-H clubs, the importance of the 4-H clubs. Also, bees. Yeah. We remember a couple of years ago that the Ministry of Agriculture put out a notice because there was an individual that was attempting to bring bees up from Trinidad. And you have that problem in Trinidad with the Africanized killer bees. Yeah, they've actually got the Africanized killer bees in Trinidad. Now, those bees, they attack en masse and they kill people. They don't call them killer bees just for calling them a namesake. They actually are venomous to the point of, and they swarm you. They are larger than normal bees. They swarm individuals. They are very aggressive. If they take over a particular area, you dare not go there. And they can kill you. They've been known to kill animals as well as people. That's next door in Trinidad. So someone was attempting a couple of years ago to bring bees up from Trinidad, and the Ministry of Agriculture had to not only stop that person, but they had to put out a notice to people that you can't do that. Because not only are you endangering the honey industry here in Grenada when you do that, but you're endangering life and limb here in Grenada as well when you do that. So the bees, and so they've been speaking about legislation in relation to that, and how Grenada fares on the world market in relation to honey. And so as some of you may know and some of you may not know, Grenada's honey is regarded highly around the world. Say something like them bees and them pollinating with the spice and all that kind of thing. It putting a little extra spice into the honey. So it's been winning awards internationally. Yeah? So Grenada's honey is highly prized. The minister also spoke, and the permanent secretary spoke, about the issue of predial larceny. And Cami mentioned it a while ago, of that farmer, I believe in the St. Patrick area, that has gone through thousands upon thousands of dollars in losses. Someone, I don't understand how someone can do something like that, though, that you go into their farm and you chop up their produce. Yeah? Chop up, just like vindictively, just chop up everything. I mean, that's a hard one to understand. In fact, I don't think I even want to understand that one. Because I don't think a normal thinking mind can go through that process or have enough hate towards an individual or individuals to go and do that to them. Because this is the people's livelihood, from what I'm hearing. It's their livelihood. So the minister did speak about amendments to the predial larceny legislation, the legislation that exists right now in relation to predial larceny. That legislation to be relooked and updated. The process is already ongoing. But also looking at legislation that crosses between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health, working along with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture, working together for things like a food safety bill. So how is produce grown? And how is it transported? Yeah? All of those things. Not just looking at the state of a kitchen, but also looking at how fish is transported from the ocean to a restaurant or to a hotel. Yeah? How the fish is transported. How it is treated after it is caught. The same goes for poultry. And you heard the mention there of the Maribor Abattoir as well as another issue that came up there. The Maribor Abattoir. Now, as it is right now, what is supposed to be happening is that all of the livestock to be slaughtered. And folks, the phone lines are still open. 440-7377 and 347-329-3101. Taking all of the livestock to Maribor to have them slaughtered. Yeah, it's not supposed to be a situation where, as we have coming up, Christmas time is coming up, just about 84, 83 days away. Yeah, we're pretty close to Christmas right now. Usually, you have folks saying, well, I have pork on sale on Saturday or I have pork on sale on Friday or whenever. In the days leading up to Christmas especially. And you have guys all over the island that decide that they're going to slaughter their cow. So they just bring the cow, they get some friends, and they slaughter, and they hook up meat, and they're selling meat there. It is, while yes, it is the person's animal and that sort of thing, we've been lucky thus far that we haven't had a major outbreak of some sort of bacterial infection and so on coming with that. Yeah, so we have to be careful. So the aim now is to legislate and put the system in place that the cows and the sheep, the goats, etc. can be sent up to Maribo, transported to Maribo, slaughtered, and then the meat is stamped. So you'll be stamping the meat that this meat is certified by the Ministry of Health, or probably the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Agriculture, but most likely by the Ministry of Health, through the Ministry of Agriculture. So there'll be a stamp that says that this meat is allowed for sale. And you see it in other countries. You know, in the US right now is not a situation somebody just go and pull a cow some part of the farm and slaughter just like that, and so that there are certain criteria that must be met. If these animals are to be sold wholesale on the market and so, that there are certain criteria that need to be met. That legislation will also have to take into consideration for personal use. If you're slaughtering your cow because you're having a wedding or something and you're going to slaughter, it's going to have to take into consideration whether you still need to go to Maribo or whether you can do it on your own. Because the thing is, in my mind, maybe you should carry it to Maribo because it still would be for public consumption. People are going to eat it. So the legislation will have to take all of that into consideration. So the predial larceny legislation, and I know that the ministry has been working towards getting some cameras and so on that work with solar, so that farmers who have been affected or believe that they will be affected by predial larceny, or in this case predial vandalism. This is not predial larceny as what happened in St. Patrick. This is predial vandalism. They chopped up the watermelon and the pumpkin, and they just chop up everything. Yeah? Louisa, that's a serious form of bad mind to do that to another person. So putting proper legislation in place, harsher fines and so, for these sort of activities. Yeah? But also tightening the mechanisms for monitoring, reporting. You heard the minister mention that they are putting in place a hotline for predial larceny. Because from time to time, you hear guys call different radio programs and they say things like, oh, we're going to put some needle in that, don't buy this and so. Number one, it is illegal to even say that. And number two, it is illegal to do that. Yeah? Because you never know. Innocently, a child may end up eating that, you know. Innocently, child had nothing to do with this whole thing. I know that in 99.9% of the times, it's just an idle threat. But there have been instances in the past, and I know one individual was detained for that, I believe either earlier this year or last year. I can't remember exactly when, but an individual was detained for actually doing the act. They put the thing in it. They planted or whatever. So they fed up, this fella's only taking the thing. But what happens to the innocent person, the innocent child, whose parent unwittingly buys this from a vendor who may have bought it from the people who stole it, thinking that that person has lands and so on. They know that person as a person that has lands. They know that person as a person that has that particular crop. But the person may not have enough of that, and they go and they rob somebody's land with it. And at the end of the day, it ends up affecting a child. Or it ends up affecting you, one of the listeners here. So it is unfair. So the ministry, they're putting a better reporting system in place. So the predial larceny hotline that they can call and say, what, some fellas down in that land there right now, and I see they go in with the people fig. Yeah? Look, it have two men digging out, all the people dashing right now. They go on to town to do something, and some guys up here digging out all the dashing. Or I'm seeing some guys cleaning out a patch of sauce up there, and they are not the owners. You need to send somebody to check on it. So putting the proper reporting mechanism in place and the proper response mechanism through the Royal Grenada Police Force and the Predial Larceny Task Force and so. But also offering the other option of using technology to monitor the farms so that in case no one sees, you have a recording of what is taking place. And there are the cameras that can work solar powered as long as there is sun, it charges it up. And there are some that are infrared, they can work at night. They charge up enough so they could work for the entire night. Yeah? So you can set up those at various points around farms and so, and you will be able to monitor who goes in and what they do. Yeah? So that you can capture these persons. But after you capture them, if the legislation is still dating back to the 1970s and 60s, the penalties are not as harsh as they can be. And therefore, in looking back at the predial larceny legislation and the amendments to it, and also taking into consideration other things like food safety and so on, you expect that some new figures will be put in there and some new action will be taken in relation to that particular issue. Yeah? So quite a bit. They spoke about the abattoirs, as I said. They spoke about the 4-H clubs, the crop production, agro-production, the $2 million in relation to irrigation, all of that. Yeah? Under agriculture. And some people still say, nothing happening under agriculture. Yeah, but as we said, we're going to play the post-cabinet press briefing again later today. And for those of you that want to listen to it one time, when we end the program today, you'll have the opportunity a few minutes later, when the program has ended. For those of you on the live stream, when the live stream has ended, you'll be able to go back a few minutes later and re-listen to the post-cabinet press briefing. Folks, just some quick reminders as we're quickly running out of time. First of all, let me say a happy birthday to my good brethren, Oswald Gilbert, OG. Yeah, man. Happy birthday to you, man. I know the family, the wife and the kids, everybody. I know they're going to make it special for you this morning. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful one. Yeah? And also remember, folks, Kirani's in action tomorrow again. Yeah? 35 minutes after 1 in the semi-finals of the men's 400 meter. I think there are more than one heat to run off in the semi-final. So as we get the start list and we get that information, we are going to let you know. All right? And tomorrow morning, starting at 10 minutes to 9, yeah, we have Lyndon Victor completing in Group B of the long jump of the decathlon. And continuing for the rest of the morning, well, the rest of the day, basically, up until roughly about 3-4 in the afternoon. Every now and again, he'll be participating in different events. We'll attempt to put the start list up on HARDTALK so you can get to view it and know when Lyndon is in action tomorrow. Yeah, Pan American medalist. All right, Lyndon Victor. And remember as well, the convention of the new National Party coming up on the 27th of October. We'll get our General Secretary in studio to talk with us more on that as it draws closer. And for those of you in St. George Northeast, remember that meeting taking place 5:30 p.m. this evening at the Boca Secondary School. Looking forward to seeing you all there. You know, I say I'll see you all there, so I mean I come into it. I pass in, I want to hear what's going on. Right? So those of you in St. George Northeast, Ms. Noriega, spread the word. Nice? Good. Those of you in St. George Northeast, that very important meeting that will be taking place at the Boca Secondary School from 5:30 p.m. this evening. All right? Folks, that's all the time we have for HARDTALK today. It's been wonderful being here with you. And whatever you say and do it safe and secure. We want to be speaking to and with you and definitely not about you. My name is Sheldon Scott. Remember the rebroadcast at 8 p.m. tonight via CRFM, at 10 p.m. tonight via WeiVybz Radio out there in Brooklyn, 94.9, and 3 a.m. for those of you that get up early to do your studying and that kind of thing, right? Yeah. You're studying for your online degree and you get up and you connect and you do your work and think them hours. Nice, right? There's also a rebroadcast at that hour for you. All right, that's all the time we have for HARDTALK today. Love each and every one of you.
Stay up to date with all that's happening with the new national party, NNP. Send us a message via text or WhatsApp on 405-8683 with your name, email, and constituency. Stay in the know with NNP. Get updated.